If you're wondering exactly where to invest into Townsville in 2025, then you've come to the right video because I'm going to show you exactly where those locations are. And Townsville is a very, very hot market at this point in time with so many buyers agents, so many property gurus, so many retail investors currently pumping up the area. This location is a red hot market and it is incredibly difficult to secure properties. But if you still want to invest into Townsville, I'm going to tell you exactly where you should be looking at. And as you can see, there are about 50 suburbs that you can choose from within Townsville, but not all of them are good and not all of them are bad. You need to be very specific about which ones you choose. And to do that, we want to actually select our strategy and actually put in certain metrics which will output a certain number of suburbs for us. And once I put my metrics with supply and demand, days on market, price change, affordability, and rental demand, it can actually spit out us 3 suburbs. And if you don't know what these metrics are, then you need to go check out my other video, which you can click here. But now that we've put in our metrics, the 3 suburbs that you must consider is Gulliver, Mundingborough, and Thurungawa Central. And when we start to look at the map, we can see that Gulliver and Mundingborough are right here in these 2 pockets, and Thurungawa Central is just over here along the Rosses River. And these are the ideal candidates for properties within Townsville, because that is where the market is the tightest, where affordability is still apparent, and the days on market is still strong. And when we start to deep dive into each suburb, you can actually start to see when you scroll down, there's a good amount of infrastructure spend, there's a lot of price growth that's already happened, affordability is still under the 30-year mark, and demand and stock on market is all trending in the right direction, even though there's a small uptrend in days on market in Gulliver. One thing that you will notice is that in the vacancy rate, it has been a rise since about 2024 onwards. That's because a lot more retail investors and buyers agents have been buying in the area. And in a very similar trend, you look at Mundingborough along the Rosses River, you can see a very similar trend. Mundingborough's 3-year growth is a lot less, around 34%. So this might be a location that you want to prioritize above the rest because it has the most amount of room to grow. We can see rental yields are still good, affordability is still well under 30 years, which is very good for us to see, and days on market and stock on market. So the supply and demand metrics are still in the right direction for us. As well as the vacancy rate, once again in 2024, you can see a sharp rise. That's because of the more investors buying up in the area. In a similar fashion, Tauranga Central is another location that you can consider. It's got that little bit more growth, around 60%, 51%, similar to Gulliver, but it still has the metrics that we're looking for. And you can see that in these metrics, I've really put it under 60% price change in the last 3 years because I want to buy in markets that haven't grown too much, or 80%. Because when I adjust this slightly and put 80, we get a lot more metrics that are very common among property gurus and buyers to talk about, such as Heatley, Kuwan, Wulguru. These locations have just grown that little bit extra that I don't really want to consider. I mean, Heatley's at 71%. That's quite a lot. So that's one metric you can tweak to capture more suburbs. Another metric you can tweak is the rent change, for example, and you can get more examples like Condon, which is another popular location which you can consider when investing into property. So that's a notable mention as well. And you can just see Condon is just right beside Rasmussen. So that's another location that you can consider within Townsville. So if you're in this video purely to know what the best locations to invest in Townsville are based on the data, then there you go. You've got Mundingborough, you've got Gulliver, you've got Thurungawa Central, and you've got Condon. These are the most popular locations that I would consider investing into Townsville in 2025. But there's still so much to discuss about Townsville, and if you're here for the full breakdown to talk about its economy, its major projects, its flood risk, its high insurance rates, then you need to watch till the end of the video because it's super duper important that you understand everything before investing into this area. But if you have not already, make sure you are subscribed to my private community. It's an absolute no-brainer to join. There's over 110 members. There's so much resources available, so many questions being asked. There's exclusive content, there's advanced property resources which you can get access to. There's free weekly community calls, there's properties, templates, and links. You need to absolutely join. And just to give you a little sneak peek into the Discord community, we have questions being asked every single day in the general chat, in every state chat. Every single suburb is being discussed and there's a new question. Let's get back into the video. Now, the reason why Townsville is so popular as a location is because of its well-diversified economy, as well as a number of major projects happening within the area at this very point in time. And just to show you this, Townsville, North Queensland is home to about 250,000 people and supports 110,000 different jobs and an economic output of $43 billion. That's a lot of money. I'm just saying. And when we start to scroll down, we can see that healthcare, public administration, education, and training are some of its biggest employers within the region, with healthcare employing about 19,000 people, which is quite significant. And when you click here, you can also see the breakdown by percentage of each job. And you can see that no single industry sector takes more than 25% of the location. That means the location is quite well diversified. And not only do we look at the economic diversity of a region, we need to look at the economic output and what industry actually generates the most amount of money. And when we start to look at this, we can see that manufacturing, public administration, construction, retail hiring services are the ones that pump out the most money. We can see that manufacturing is about 6.6 billion, public administration is 6.3 billion, construction is another 5.4 billion. So it's a very, very well diversified economy with multiple different sectors producing a lot of income. And that's what we need for a long-term hold. And we can also confirm this by going to economic ID and having a look at that's healthcare, public administration, education, training are the biggest sectors of Townsville when you look at here. The other sort of important metric we need to be looking at is the unemployment rate. And when we start to look at the unemployment rate back in 2021, we could see that a very good trend is that unemployment was decreasing and more people had jobs. And now we can see that unemployment is rising, which is not good. However, it's on par with Queensland's unemployment, so we can still sort of negate that factor. If unemployment starts to rise more and more, this is a cause for concern. We want people employed because if people aren't employed, then they aren't able to pay rents and pay mortgages in the area, which means that people will leave. So unemployment needs to be good in that area. Another very important factor we want to look at is the GRP of Townsville, and we can see that over the past few years, since about 2020, its GRP has been increasing from around 13.6 billion to about $15.1 billion, which is very, very good for us to see as an investor because that means an economy is producing more and more products. So as you can see, Townsville is a very healthy economy. It's very well diversified. It produces a lot of money, but there is still more to break down about Townsville and hence why it's so popular. So what are the other reasons that Townsville is so popular as an investment location? And that's because of its significant infrastructure and development projects driving its economic growth and housing demand. There are so many different various projects that you need to go and do your research, including $750 million in solar and battery projects across northern Queensland that creates 400 construction jobs and renewable energy capacity. You've got a major project called Copper String 2032 led by Powerlink, which is going to supply so many jobs within the area. It's a major hub and a major project that you can consider, and you can do more research into what it is and how it operates. I'm not going to go in a super detailed breakdown of it. You've also got the major Port of Townsville upgrade. $232 million was spent ensuring trade, defense, and cruise opportunities no longer bypass Townsville. So that increases Townsville's demand. Not only that, Albanese government has invested a significant amount of money into Townsville for its RAAF base. Around $700 million they have spent for its new Apache helicopters, which are based from 2025. So that means this year onwards. So it's a huge amount of investment going into Townsville from a defense side, from an industrial side in terms of renewable energy, as well as other major projects that you can do your research on. So there's a lot of money being poured into the Townsville economy, which both creates jobs, economic output, and it's just healthy for the economy. And you need those people to be living somewhere, hence why there's so much housing demand within the area. Major projects are a huge economic driver of where house price growth can occur. These major projects will create jobs, they will stimulate population growth, and they will strengthen Townsville's property market, making it an attractive choice for investors out. I mean, it already has. It's just wild. But before we get into that, if you have not already, make sure you are subscribed to my free newsletter. I go through a different location every single week. It's an absolute no-brainer. Go smash that subscribe button. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. It's going to be amazing. Let's get back into the video. Now, if you don't know, at the time of recording this, which is in early February, Townsville is getting smashed with floods. And there are so many BAs, there are so many property gurus out there propping up Townsville as a place to invest, but the retail investors who are unaware of the risk will suffer. Townsville are having huge floods. You only have to look at 7 News to actually see how bad these floodwaters are. And they go from all Cairns to Mackay and includes Townsville. And Townsville is at major risk at the moment. So if you are buying in a bad pocket, then you will suffer the consequences of a damaged house and you will pay higher insurance premiums. This is a serious risk. And if you can see here, Google Maps has actually put the North Queensland floods and which parts are actually being affected, and you can see across here as well. So this is a serious concern that you need to consider when investing into Townsville, because if these rivers flood, which they do, a lot of properties will be damaged. You will have to pay the repair costs if you don't have the right insurance, and you could be be left out of pocket a lot of money. So please do your due diligence about buying in flood risk zone areas. And if you have not already, make sure you go to the Queensland State website and you check exactly where these flood zones are. Now, of course, Townsville, large parts of it are in a flood zone, so it's very hard to avoid them. And the way you go about doing this is you have to do your proper due diligence with property managers to discuss with them which areas are at the highest risk of flooding and which areas aren't, and has this location flooded in the past. If you do not confirm this, then you are putting yourself at risk. So please do your due diligence when buying property in Townsville. I mean, the reality is playing right before our eyes already at this point in time, and Townsville is a known flood. It's not something that's a rare occurrence, it's often. So be careful. So what's the other risk? Because of these floods, you'll have higher insurance premiums, and Townsville is also known to have higher council rates, which is another issue, and you have to factor that in. And I'm going to show you in the next part of this video in the property analysis section. Just for example, I've got this property here, 73 Charles Street in Gulliver, which is a nice little property. When you start to look through the pictures, very well maintained, renovated inside, looks excellent. And this is being sold for $549 and over. I expect it to go anywhere from $560 to $580. And when you start to put this in the property analysis sheet, and you can see you'll get roughly about $550 rent per week or a little bit more, you can see that it's going to leave you around $15,000 out of pocket, or around $1,500 every single month, assuming you have a 12% deposit and a 6.7 interest rate. Of course, if you have a 20% deposit, then you're better off slightly. And this is before any tax refunds as well, by the way. And say you get a little bit extra rent and you get 600, it makes it slightly better as well. But the two biggest call outs that I have to always call out with regional Queensland is the insurance rates, as well as the council rates and the water rates. These are very, very high within Townsville. And by the way, after these floods have happened, after all these North Queensland floods have happened, it's going to be more. Insurance companies will start to raise their prices because houses are damaged. They need to recoup their costs and they need to buffer themselves from future risks. So please be careful. And so you're around $10,000 out of pocket. Now, this doesn't mean much without referencing other properties as well, because if you look at other locations within regional Victoria, regional New South Wales, you'll find a very similar number as well. However, I want to stress this point is because Townsville is made out to be this attractive locations with very high yields, very high profit. But now, if you invest in 2025, that is not the reality. But if you are looking for quick equity in 2025, then you need to consider this location because that's where prices are growing. And it's a good location for a long-term hold. Awesome. And that sums up Townsville. And if you haven't already, make sure you join my private community. It's an absolute no-brainer. At $35 a month, it's $1 a day. And if you're wondering what are the most important macroeconomic factors that you should consider when investing into property, then you need to check this video out. Thank you.